Awesome. Thank you, Chris. Like I was saying, my name is Lauren Thomas. I'm your office manager, and thank you so much for being here. Before we get started, I'm going to thank Roger Yonka. He is the one who came up with this event and presented it before the conference committee. So if Roger wouldn't have thought of it, none of us would be here right now. His vision for this event was for it to just be something fun and laid back, where you can get to know us and we can get to know you. And hopefully you just go away with a better understanding of some of our volunteer opportunities and which option would be best with you. Some of them are going to require more hours than some of the other options. So you'll just want to listen and see which one works best. Let's see here. There are some exciting things going on in the NQA right now. If you've seen our websites, there has been great changes to it. It looks completely different than it did a year ago. Another thing you might notice is that we have increased our member benefits. Last year at this time, we had 2 member benefits options. This year we have 14. So we have greatly improved that. And there's some really fun ones, like some I can think off the top of my head is like Qigong clothes, like a percentage off on that. There's also some good things for business opportunities, like just software management and deals with them. Some other things we've been doing is we just switched to a new membership software. There have been some growing pains with that one. It's been a little tough getting everyone transferred over from one system to the new, but we made that decision because we thought that it would work better in the future. We were limited with the old one, and this one just has a lot more options, and we feel like going forward, it'll better serve us. One thing that we do at board meetings is before every board meeting, we take time to focus on a meditation, and we set our intention on doing what is at the highest good for our members and for Qigong. That is the heart of our organization, and we want you to join with us in that mission to best serve our members and to best serve Qigong. How this is going to work today is we have a panel. Not all of the committees are represented. Some committees are just empty right now, and some of them are doing quite well and have plenty of people. We have 3 committees here that are in need of people, so that is who we have decided to feature. If you would like more information on another committee that's not represented here, we still have people that are on the panel that have been part of our organization for many years, and they can provide you with that information. So to start off with, Bernard is going to lead us off. Bernard Shannon is our chair and acting chair of the legislation committee. Bernard is the founder of the International Medical Qigong College. You may have heard of it. What you may not know about Bernard is that he has a lot of acreage with RV trails and animals, and I think a few months ago, like some baby goats were born. So so he lives on a farm pretty much. But Bernard, can you just tell us a little bit about serving on the board?
Sure. Thank you, Lauren. I want to thank you, before I get started, I want to thank you for hosting and for all that you do on a daily basis. You're the kind of grease in the wheel that makes everything happen. So everyone appreciates you, and I do as well. And as you did, I also want to thank Roger. I know he's not here yet, but he was the inspiration for this gathering. Roger was one of the first people I met in 2005 when I first joined the NQA at the annual conference in Colorado Springs. And Joe, also for you and your committee for taking that idea and making it come to life. We're here because you guys took that idea and did something with it. So kudos to you guys, you and Clayton and the others. So to the board is an eclectic group of practitioners who work for you. The board works for you, our members. And speaking of that, this is my 12th year serving on the board of directors. I served from 2006 to 2012. And then I was encouraged to revisit the board. So I've been on again from 2017 till now. This July, I will be rotating off the board. We have term limits, and I'll speak about those in just a moment. And of those 12 years, I've had the pleasure of serving as chairman of the board for 8 of those years, 4 during my first rotation and 4 now. Being chair is a wonderful job, being able to help guide the NQA through its vision process. But on the board, we have clinicians, instructors, and people who just love to practice Qigong. For some, Qigong is their full-time gig. For others, it's a side job. Others who are interested in service on the board don't make any direct money from Qigong, but it's like all of us, before we're anything as instructor or clinician, we're all practitioners first. You can't do anything unless you're a practitioner, because you have to earn the gong of the Qi. And so that's what we want to bring within the NQA and serving on the board is people who want to hone their Qigong skills, their vision, and everything they do, because Qigong is not an hour a day. It's a way of life. And people that have that as a vision, who think of that in that way, we welcome on the board, because we have to look not only for who we are as an organization, but what we vision for all of Qigong within the United States. Our association is growing, but we're still small, where there's millions of people in the States who practice Qigong. And our website, the new website, has drawn so many more people to inquire about instructors and practices and how to do things safely. And that's our role, is to hold that space for people. And the board, besides being comprised of instructors, clinicians, and just practitioners, we have different views on life, on cultivation, and on Qigong. And so the board is a place of collaboration where people of different viewpoints and different ideas can come together to share those viewpoints on what direction they think the board and thus the NQA should go. The board of directors, their job is to create the vision for the NQA, and is to take ideas from the membership, from committees and their respective members, and from fellow board members, compile these into an agenda, work this agenda, listen to issues, reframe issues maybe, find consensus, create and implement directives, and then take those back to the committees or take those on as task forces and work this. The new website, we worked on that for years, finding new process, new database. There's been a lot of things, looking at the annual conference from live, and now we're doing it online, and then hopefully we'll do it in 2024 again in person, and Joe will speak to that, I imagine. The board is a beautiful place for people to come together, to share, to learn, to grow, to have a vision of the future for what Qigong should be. And the decisions we make on these agenda items, on these issues, when we think of them, it's not just today we have to think about. We have to think about what we want for the future. In 5 or 10 years, are we just making a decision? Or are we creating policy? How does that impact our livelihood? Whether it's through, right now there's legislative activities that are being put forth. The most urgent one is in Massachusetts. And it currently says to require licensure for, again, all Qigong practitioners. It's not delineated for instructors or practitioners or clinicians. It just says Qigong. So that's a thing close to my heart, is the legislation, where I don't want us, I want my son and his son or daughter, or my daughter, if she chooses to be able to practice Qigong in the same way that I can, without the restrictions and friction that some government bodies may put upon us. So legislation is a committee who feeds the board information. The board feeds directives back down. It's an up and down relationship. So I encourage anyone who who has that vision to put in a nomination to work for the board. We have the board normally has 3-year terms. You're allowed to serve 2 3-year terms. This year, we're in a unique situation because last year we didn't have an election. So this year we'll have 3 seats for 2 years and 3 seats for 3 years because the last year's terms kind of already started. So they're a year into it. And that'll bring us back to a full board. And having all those voices is very important. Again, it's really important to hear different viewpoints, different points of view from different age groups, from different backgrounds, from different practices. That creates a more informed decision that we can make. And so I encourage you, if you have the time and bandwidth, to apply for to nominate yourself or to have someone nominate you for the board. We're a working board. And as a working board, we expect about 3 hours of work a week for each board member. Sometimes it's a little more, sometimes it's less. The board meets monthly for about an hour and a half to 2 hours, and then has potentially 2 longer retreats, one normally just before conference in July, and one somewhere in the winter, February or March, in which we spend about a day to a day and a half doing not only the normal board work, but strategic planning. And so again, I encourage you, if you have the bandwidth or desire, to apply, to nominate. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. I believe, Joe, Lauren, are we doing chat questions, or are they just shouting out? Or
we're not going to do it just yet. We're going to have every panel member go through and give a brief presentation, and then at the end of that, we'll have just questions for everyone.
Thank you. So if you have thoughts, or if you have questions for myself or anyone here as they present, please throw them in the chat, because we encourage that and we'll get to them. And we run out of time today, we'll be able to get you guys privately. Thank you.
Thank you, Bernard.
You're welcome.
Okay, that was Bernard's presentation. Our next presenter or panel member is Chris Bouguignon. If you ever wondered about Chris's last name, he was born in southern France and even lived in a lighthouse for a little bit. I thought that was kind of cool. Chris is the founder, he and his wife, of Simply Aware in Richardson, Texas. He does a lot of mental health work, as well as help veterans with trauma. So he does a lot. And he also has a pig named Kevin Bacon. So Chris, if you could tell us a little bit about the nominations and election committee, that would be wonderful.
Can I speak a little bit about operations side, the president, vice presidency? Because
you can do whatever you want to do. Go for it.
Hi, everybody. Thank you very much for taking time out of your Sunday to come and join us. I've been with the association NQA since 2008, and like Bernard, I've served 2 terms on the board. I've also served, I'm in my 6th year as president. I served 2 years as vice president prior to that. I have met and worked with so many amazing people, and learned from people that are, further down the road than me in training, and it's been an honor to work in the association and learn so much in so many different aspects. Qigong is, as Bernard said, there's a big umbrella, and there's, clinical work, which I do, which Lauren, alluded to. I do a lot of behavioral health work using Qigong as a foundational practice, energetic psychology kind of stuff. And then there's also the practitioners, and then there's people that are curious about Qigong, and they're just kind of dipping their feet in the water. And we want to be available to all of them. We want to be able to create an environment where everybody feels welcome and we can all learn from each other, because it doesn't matter if I've got a new student in class and they ask me a really good question, I'm going to learn from them. And so as long as we're open and available, it creates this beautiful environment of sharing. as the president of the association, I am responsible for the business operations side. So Lauren and I work closely together. Clayton is my current vice president, and the treasurer, the bookkeeper, secretary work within my realm of responsibility. So it's more about day-to-day operations kind of stuff, as Bernard talked about vision and implementation and working up and down with the committees. My work, I work for Bernard and particularly at the desire of I work to implement the vision of the board with the team that I have. And that's been an amazing journey. It's been hard. I kid you not. But I also serve at different times. I've served as in different committees. My first committee was membership. And then nominations and elections, which is what I'm going to talk about a little bit, as well as conference committee and probably other committees that I can't think of right now. But starting out at the committee level, working on the committees and kind of getting, our feet wet in the understanding of how the NQA works is a good way to, if you don't feel ready to serve on the board, then so joining committees and working with committees can really get things comfortable to where then board service makes more sense for you. But in the nominations election committee, as Bernard said, we have an annual cycle of nominations and elections process. The members choose their board of directors. And so there's a process that we have in place to gather nominations and then vet the nominees, present them to the board to be ratified. And then from there, the members are presented with all the nominees and they're voted into positions. You're going to be experiencing that cycle as we're coming up on the end of a nomination cycle, March 15th, I believe. And then from there, we're going to start the vetting process and ratification process, and then we will launch the 2023 election cycle. The more nominees we have, the better our membership can make informed decisions about who they want to be leading the direction of the association moving forward. The decisions made at board level are not day-to-day operational decisions. Typically, they're more vision and direction of the association. The best example is what Bernard shared with regards to legislation. That's crucial. I think, Bernard, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but if I remember right, in the past couple of years, we've turned away 23 different attempts to regulate Qigong in the country.
Thereabouts, yes.
Yeah. And regulating Qigong, there's a difference between making sure practices are safe for people and licensing for the purpose of generating income. And so when massage therapy comes in and says, we're going to license Qigong under us, it's simply about the monetary benefit of having licensure come in. And now all of a sudden, this whole group of people is now paying money to this licensing board. And that we want to avoid that. There's a difference between ethical duties and representation to make sure that people are practicing Qigong safely and effectively and ethically, which is where we stand, versus having to be licensed to do it by the state. So we stand strong as an association to represent the membership and protect our ability to practice Qigong, because even, some of the legislation is so loosely written, as Bernard said, it just says Qigong. So that means if I'm just teaching a class, I have to have some kind of licensing to do that, as opposed to just having my training, right? There's a difference between licensing and certification. Certification is what we do as an association, where we verify a person's quantity of training. Licensure is different. It's typically regulated by the state or federal in some cases, and it operates under a different type of framework. It's not that it's a bad thing all the way around. I want a doctor that's been, vetted and licensed and whatnot, but for teaching a Qigong class, I think it's overreach. And the board, the association believes that as well. So it's with regards to nominations and elections for that committee, we only meet during the election cycle, which typically starts in December and runs through April or May. And there's not a lot we've automated over the past 12 or 13 years that I've been working with nominations and elections. We've worked hard to automate the process and make it better for members to be able to look at a candidate. So we include a picture and a bio and their vision through some poignant questions about how they see the association moving forward and what they can bring to the party, so that members can make an informed decision on who they want to be on to serving in their positions on the board. So that process is pretty automated at this point. And we just, from that perspective, it's a committee that only runs part of the year, and there's not a lot to do. So I personally only need, 2 or 3 people working with me. If you have interest or questions about that process, then I'm happy to answer them for you, or the business operations side of things.
Thank you, Chris. Our next panel member to speak will be Clayton Crossley. Clayton will be representing our membership committee. Clayton, fun facts about him. He has, sorry, I was trying to keep it light around here. Clayton has like some really cool corgis. And if you're ever feeling down, just ask him to send you some videos of his corgis playing around. It is the funniest thing. Clayton also works with the VA. He provides a lot of help in Qigong work for our veterans. And he's also one of the most social people I know. Clayton's a lot of fun to be around. So Clayton, if you could unmute yourself and tell us a little bit about the membership committee.
So membership committee is essentially the committee that probably needs the most help immediately. We're a membership organization. Our membership mirrors the organization. If you want to see a change, if you want to put forth ideas, all of that comes from the membership. Increased membership means that we have more ideas, more voices, and greater means to accomplish goals for the NQA. Over the last few years, they've made great strides in increasing the membership. And I think part of that is due to the increased benefits. And I look at membership as being the pistons of the engine. It's what drives the organization, because from our membership comes our board, comes our committees, comes even the people who present at our conferences sometimes. And it's if you will, it's the bouillabaisse of the soup. And if you're passionate about Qigong and you want to stay informed on legislation, or you want to be, included in the annual conference, encourage others to join. It is tax deductible, as we are a nonprofit organization, and more members just means more voices, more ideas, and then we can turn those ideas into actual either directives or programs, and more business related opportunities. Hopefully, like someone recently, I believe, asked Lauren about a liability waiver, or where do they get insurance. So all of those things, though, all derive from our membership. When our membership asks questions, it gives us the opportunity to respond to them and to look into different areas that maybe we were actually not set up to support, and maybe we should consider those things to support. And if you don't get people to join, I'm just going to say we will have to initiate a federal draft program and have a lottery system. That's all I got.
Okay, then. All right. Thank you for that, Clayton. Okay. Our next member of the panel is going to be Jo Churn. She is our conference committee chair. She is also our deputy chair. And I forgot to mention, Clayton is our vice president, but I think actually Chris did mention that, so we're good there. But Jo's going to talk a little bit about the conference committee. Some fun facts about her is that she writes mystery books, novels, whatever you'd like to call it. And she also has some really adorable cats that she there's this thing on Twitter. I'm gonna tell about that, Joe. There's this thing on Twitter where it like puts your cat's head on all these like funny things. So like she sent us all this picture of like a cat like working at a bar, and it's her cat with the face, and I don't, you can tell them about it. It's the funniest thing. But anyway, Joe, can you go ahead and tell us about the
Sure.
conference committee?
Yeah, and just to make it clear, I'm not totally crazy, but the cat Twitter thing is just that's my escape from the world. And yes, so my cat bartends on this particular cat site on Twitter. What can I say? She's adorable. So, conference committee, and this is really, for me, this was really interesting because if you think that you're not ready to take on doing committee work, that you haven't done enough yet with the organization to take on committee work or to run for the board, I am your role model here. Well, that's a bad word. I'm not your role model, but I'm your something, because I've been a member of the NQA for 13 years or something like that. But it's only been since last July that I've been a member of the board and on the conference committee, and only since after the last conference that I have become conference chair. And conference committee, I have to say, we are doing amazing things. It used to be that all the conference committee basically did was, we had the Chi Talks, but that's run by Vicky Delajoyo. Conference committee did the conference, and that was pretty much it. We are now really the conference and events committee because we are expanding what conference committee will be doing. One example is this Chi gathering. This has never been done before. This is just something that, with Roger's suggestion, we were like, that's a great idea. Let's just get people together, let them ask questions. We are starting what will eventually be a 3 or 4 times a year Chi training. And these will be deep dives by various professional members of the NQA into actual seminars and trainings that you can really, it's not just bouncing in for an hour to listen to someone, but they will do things with you, and they will have you do things, and you'll be able to talk to each other. And our first one is this April 23rd. We will be hosting Madeline Marshall, who was at our conference last year, and she will be doing Qigong. So she will be doing some deep work into how you connect with nature with Qigong, and she'll be talking about Wuji. She'll be talking about the 5 elements. She'll be talking about trees and medicine. So this is totally brand new. You've probably seen, if you're a member, you've seen the email come out suggesting you register for this. She will be doing the Chi Talk in March, which is March 9th, I think. And so if you want to get a free sneak peek at her, certainly sign up for that. She's delightful. She's really a wonderful person. We're also, the virtual conference in 2023 will be the end of September, beginning of October. We are going to, we hope, be reintroducing the pre-conference professional development on Friday before the regular conference opens. And that will again be a chance for higher level members, certified members, to study something in a deeper way or present something in a deeper way. And then in 2024, we're hoping to do an in-person. So we need bodies. We really need lots of people. This is a very busy committee. And I have to say, it's a very fun committee. Clayton and Lauren and I are all 3 on the committee, and we will all attest that we have a good time when we meet. All right, Lauren, I think that's it.
Okay, great. Thank you, Joe. Let me put myself back on this one. Okay, that ends our panel discussion. If you'd like, go ahead and turn your video back on because we're going to take questions, do our best to answer them. If you want to be called on, one way you can do that is by raising your hand. You'll go to the bottom of your screen and there's an add reaction button. You can just click on that and raise your hand if you would like. Let me get it on gallery view so I can see. While you guys think of some questions, I'm going to look through the chat, and I think we've already have some. One of the questions we have is, do you recommend that a person have worked on committee before volunteering for the board? If so, which ones, or is it just something one finds interesting? Who would like to take that one? Bernard, since you talked about the board, why don't you go ahead and talk on that?
Sure, thank you. It's encouraged for people to have knowledge of the NQA, if possible, prior to running for the board. It's not required. There is no policy, formal or rule, but for people to come in with not much experience or knowledge of the NQA, there's a learning curve with everything the board does. So it is encouraged that someone serve on a committee for a year or so to kind of get the feel of personalities, how things work before moving to the board. But again, that's really not required. Depending on their background and temperament and skill set, the board is looking for a variety of people, skill sets that people have. So it's preferred, but not required.
Thank you, Bernard.
Glad to be of service.
Thank you. We have another question from Kathy Lindsay. Her question is to you, Joe. She asked,
Okay.
can you give me just a ballpark estimate of time commitment needed for conference committee, especially as it gets closer to the conferences?
Well, it definitely picks up closer, although if we do it well in theory, we will have gotten all the kinks worked out enough before the conference that we can all sort of sit back and say, okay, we've got all our ducks in a row. We currently are meeting monthly, and then we try to handle other things through email chats so that we aren't taking up tremendous amounts of time. And our meetings are not necessarily long. They go 50 minutes to an hour generally. Occasionally we might need to throw an extra meeting in there, but you can figure monthly when we're right in the midst of early stuff, probably more like bi-weekly, very close to the conference time. So it's a little more time commitment, I think, than it used to be, simply because we're doing so much more. So the more different programs we want to offer to the NQA and its members, it is a little bit more time commitment, which is why we want lots of people on conference committee, because that way we can break the work down. And so nobody has a whole lot dumped on them. Nobody has to take care of everything. We can parcel it out, and so everyone can be doing a little bit, so that when we come together in our monthly meetings, we can just tell jokes.
Yeah, conference committee is fun, guys. One thing that's really enjoyable about it is you get to have a really big voice in who our presenters are going to be. So if someone interests you and you think that they're good and they should be heard, you can bring that suggestion to the conference committee and we get to hear you. You also get to talk about maybe some locations that you prefer for the in-person conference. So by serving on the committee, you really have an influence of the direction that we take the organization. Thank you, Joe. Let's see here. Stuart, how are you doing? Stuart says, is there going to be an outreach committee, and what is our total membership? Our total membership as of now is around 500 members. That's really good because last year it was not near that. So that has really gone up a lot in the past year. As far as an outreach committee,
I'll jump in a little bit. That's all right.
okay.
Just kinda
Yeah,
like membership.
definitely.
Yeah, so one of the things that the board has been discussing recently, and I think outreach probably kind of falls into that same thing, was like a mentorship committee. So when people join the NQA, they can kind of learn the ropes of it and not only and better connect with the other people. I see outreach personally for me, because I do a lot of service work, as I think of outreach initially as service to your community. So I imagine everyone here is already an individual member of their own outreach committee, but I really do like the idea, Stuart.
Well, oh, sorry. Who was that?
Also,
Oh,
when
Stuart.
we look at outreach, we've looked at it in two separate ways in the past. One is a kind of a, as Clayton was looking as a, if you will, a subset of membership where we're really looking at individuals moving out into the community or receiving mentorship and other things. Another aspect of outreach is corporate level. In the past, we had an outreach committee that was focused at trying to create alliances with larger nonprofits, arthritis associations, heart association, and things of that nature, so that if we could create an alliance with those organizations, then we would be able to help our members, our professional members, get easier access to working with those at a local level. And so we have both the organizational level of outreach as well as the individual level. And we have addressed both at one point, but it's something that we'd hope to bring back in the future for that other as well.
Yeah, as of right now, oh, sorry. Let's get Chris in. Go ahead, Chris.
So another past outreach has been one of the previous chairs and committees created an NQA Day, which happens supposedly used to happen the first Saturday of October, 6 months after World Tai Chi and Qigong Day. And so that was a day where teachers around the country would come together, very similar to World Tai Chi and Qigong Day, and gather and share Qigong with their communities locally. So that was another event that was created, NQA Day, to try and create that kind of local grassroots outreach.
Right. So it's been done in the past. Right now, I don't think we have any members in the outreach committee. So it is desperately, it is desperately needed. One thing that is part of our mission statement is to promote the understanding of Qigong for present and future generations. So the outreach committee is part of our mission, and we really need to get that going again. So Stuart and everyone else, if you're interested in that and that's your passion, please contact info@nqa.org and we'll try to get that set up because it's desperately
Lauren,
needed.
can I say something? Lauren, can I say something?
Who's talking?
Stuart.
Oh, Stuart. Yeah, go for it, Stuart.
Okay, first of all, I don't know if you guys, Lauren showed you this. Lauren created the best marketing tool you have for new members, this brochure, and also for instructors for their students. I don't know who hasn't seen this. This is awesome. And Lauren created this. Pictures. This is a great marketing tool. And
Well,
I've been using it with my students and they love it. They love it. But also it's to recruit people for National Qigong Association. So Lauren, you really created a masterpiece. This is really this is an important tool for a membership and outreach. And Lauren created it.
Well, thank you, Stuart. Stuart actually gave us the idea to do brochures. I think sometimes we get so caught up in technology this, that we don't think of, maybe a simple brochure would really do some good things. So that's just a great example of, if you can just bring your viewpoint and your giftings, there is a place for it. Don't think you can't do it, because that's a great example of someone who just had an idea, brought it to us. We made it happen, and it just worked. Is there any more questions?
Yeah,
You can-
also,
Sorry, go ahead.
Lauren has discussed some ideas that I think are wonderful. One idea is for the NQA, maybe to subsidize instructors, practitioners to go to colleges and universities for the next generation. I think that's a very commendable suggestion, Lauren.
Well,
I know I'm very passionate and I'm really very new to Qigong. I've only been teaching for 3 years, but I have a passion for Qigong. I always think out of the box. I had my own business. I'm really into marketing and public relations. And I don't think there's enough press, TV press for Qigong. Everything is Tai Chi. And I tell my students that Qigong is the best kept secret in the world, and I want to be involved with outreach. And I'll follow Lauren's leads. She got wonderful suggestions. And I'll tell you just a little nutshell. When Bill Douglas first started World Tai Chi Day, I contacted him and I believed in it. And I contacted the Oprah Winfrey Show, to get him on. Unfortunately, I didn't even get an answer back from the show producer. Well, that was the first year of World Tai Chi Day. Maybe it didn't mean anything, but I really think we need more TV presence besides Dr. Oz saying, if you want to live to 100, do Qigong.
Yeah.
I don't want to, I'm the new kid on the block, but I'm very passionate and I have a marketing and public relations background, and I want to devote myself to NQA.
Well, thank you, Stuart, and we'd love to have you. Whenever we get finished with this, just shoot me an email and we'll talk and hopefully get an outreach committee going, because we desperately need it. And I know you're incredibly passionate about it and would bring a lot of ideas.
But
So-
also, Lauren, if it involves being in the membership committee and have a subcommittee in membership for outreach, this would be perfect. So that's another, that could be maybe Plan B, Clayton, that incorporate a subcommittee in membership strictly for outreach.
Definitely. And we'll talk about this more after this broadcast. We just want to make sure we have time for everyone's questions. But thank you, Stuart. We definitely appreciate you. Clayton, did you have something to add to that?
I did. I just want to point out that this is a great example of the way Lauren kind of framed this entire meeting. The element of fire is the great communicator. Their skill sets are marketing. It's getting out there and talking to people. It's networking. So this is obviously Stuart. I mean, Stuart's the fire element out there, networking and marketing, and that's where his skill set. And this is where all these different skill sets of the 5 elements create a successful organization. I just wanted to kind of just illustrate that this is kind of what we've been talking about for the last 2.5, 3 months.
Right, absolutely. Another wonderful thing about volunteering is just the people you get to meet. I know since being a part of this organization, you just have conversations with people that you don't have with, normal people. Like you're really with your group. It's not that we're not normal, but you really get to be with a group of people that think like you, and just a lot of wonderful connections are formed. So that's been probably my favorite part about working here.
Now we're all Abby normal.
Yeah. Yes.
Lauren,
Where
there
does
was a question. Where can someone get the brochure?
I can just send you a PDF of it if you would like to print it yourself, or we can send you a physical copy. Just send me an email and I'll send you some. Let's see here. We're getting close to the end. Are there any more questions yet before we give it to Roger Yonka to close us out? Any at all? All right. Roger, if you could you just give us some final words and just what to take away from this?
Yes, indeed. I would be thrilled to do so. So I had the great honor of being present when the NQA was conceived. So think to yourself, what could that possibly mean? And I'll leave that to your imagination. I was also honored to be present when the first conference was created. And it was a very democratic process. So what happened is a group of incredibly enthusiastic Qigongists got together and created the organization and the bylaws. And then everyone resigned. And then we had an election, at which point new people were elected. So the concept was to do everything that we could to make this, to make the NQA a accessible, democratized organization. And I think that the NQA has done a really good job over, so that was around 1995. So, so now we're, pretty deep into the 21st century. And this organization is stable and strong and inspiring and has a growing membership. I think right now the board of this organization is a pretty darn exciting group of people who are super focused on these things. I'm a part of what's called the Advisory Council, which is made up of people who have served at a fairly high level in the organization, somewhere a committee or above. And so we're at a moment where an influx of people like yourselves would be absolutely fantastic. And I think we all know, being here and being inspired to be here today, now, that we understand how powerful Qigong is. We understand that there's probably a really strong need in our society, whether it would be socially, personally, economically, or as, when I say socially, I mean as a society, for average citizens to be more well and more resilient, and to become introduced to the idea that there's some kind of natural healing capacity that everybody has. This should be on the top of the list. I said the word should, could, I guess we could say, be at the top of the list for every citizen in the world to be more self-referencing, to be more self-determining, to be more self-capable and self-efficient. They call that self-efficacy and resiliency. The NQA is here to be able to continue to, shall we say, nourish and support this process of having Qigong be, or mind-body practice. Sometimes it's a little better if we just use words that people understand. So accessible mind-body practice based on the operational features of Qigong: body practice, breath practice, mind focusing practice, self-applied massage, and every kind of what we would call healing modality of Qigong. It's just so powerful and so exciting. So then think to yourself, you may be thinking to yourself, well, I'm motivated, I'm inspired, but I'm nervous. It's either going to take time that I don't have, or I'm not going to know what to do. And it's, I've trained, the organization that I work with has trained over 3,000 teachers. And the thing that we find is missing the most, it's not interest, it's not the ability to practice, it's not the ability to teach. It's the ability to feel secure and empowered and supported and nourished. And so I think that the NQA is at a place right now where I think I heard the word mentoring. That's very powerful and has been discussed on and off over all these years. Mentoring new members to who are actually new members in the organization, but then mentoring new committee members and new potential board members. If you've ever been on a board before and you feel like you have the insight, the organizational sensibility, or even close to that, so that you could be mentored into the board, I strongly recommend that you submit yourself, nominate yourself to be on the board. Many of the most important members of the NQA board over the period of going on 30 years have been people who have stepped forward, not because they knew what they were getting into, but because they were so inspired. And then if you're feeling like you'd like to inch in, then as Lauren was saying, contact headquarters and we will support you in exploring where you could fit that's the most comfortable for you relative to your time and your sense of orientation. And of course, do everything that we can to orient you as quickly as possible so that you can actually, shall we say, make a contribution. So I think the bottom, for me personally, all the way back to whenever that was, 1992 in China with a couple of other parties, imagining a democratized Qigong in the Western world. And we came up with the idea and the ideals for the NQA. It's like, I don't know. I mean, this is a personal view. I think Qigong is among the most important things in the world for poor people, rich people, educated people, uneducated people, sick people, well people, corporate people, working people. It's just children and older people, everybody. So you're invited to be a part of how that works. And I'm honored to find the NQA in, all these years later as a stable, forthgoing organization. And you're warmly invited to participate and, be a part of how that all happens. Back to you, Lauren.
Thank you, Roger. That concludes our meeting. If you would like to get connected with a committee, go ahead and email me at info@nqa.org. And I'd be happy to get you connected to the chair or some members or something like that. Right now, we're going to close. If you would like to stay on, maybe some of your questions weren't answered and you just like to stay and talk, a few of our panel members have chosen to stay for another 15 or so minutes to talk if you need to. Otherwise, that's the end of the meeting. Thank you guys for spending your Sunday afternoon with us. It really is appreciated. Thank you so much. All right.
Thank you, everybody, for showing up.
Thanks
Yes,
you all.
Thank you all.